Tough Stuff is a book created by Kevin Delgado out of Buffalo, New York. This was originally published through a Kickstarter campaign. He has some extras. I've gotten to know Kevin a little bit, so I got a copy. Just wanted to talk about it. First, when you get the book, it comes in this VHS box. I mean, it's bigger than a real VHS box, but it is a VHS box. And it's just a nice package. And this is something that, you know, when you do a Kickstarter, you have to get it. Because you have to lay out the money. You have to wait for the book. So when you get it, you want something that looks like, hey, I got something really cool. It may not fit perfectly in your alarm box, but this looks really cool. The printing is really nice. It's really pretty well done. And that's one thing that I'm going to talk about. This overall is pretty well done. So let's just open it up. And I want to show the back cover. So it is like an old school VHS, the back of the box, where it gives you a couple of scenes. It gives you the character, the logo, and then a synopsis of what's going on. And so it's just a lot of fun. It's if you like those 80 kind of movies and you want a little bit of like that image thrown in, that image, early 90s image thrown in, this is a good book for you. So Tough Stuff is set in a coastal town in California, and there's this threat where there's all this toxic waste hitting the beaches, and it's kind of like causing this widespread kind of like death and destruction. And yeah, it's over the top, it's silly, but again, that's part of the fun of it, and that's part of the 80s action movie kind of thing. Yeah, and so here you find Tough Stuff, and he's like, the funny thing about him is that he's the hero, but he's also like a dope addict, and he's not like mean and angry like a lot of the 80s guys. He's more like, he's a good guy, but he's sort of like a loser, which is something that you definitely see in the 80s comics, but he's like a lovable loser. And this is one of those worlds like Simon Hanselman has and a few other cartoonists have, where animals and humans are sentient both. You know, they talk, they have jobs, they have relationships, that sort of thing. I love this homage here to a little bit to Dark Knight Returns. I like the Sally Jesse Raphael and reference, and the Geraldo Rivera reference, and I'm not sure who this is, but I love this because I'm older, and that's the era, and I remember it sometimes fondly, but I remember that. And so basically, you have your big bosses, you have your drug kingpins who's wearing the white suit with the red shirt, like Al Pacino and Scarface kind of deal, which I enjoy. That's one of my favorite films. And so basically, the story is that he has a relationship with this nurse, and she's like, you gotta get your stuff together and get a job and get cleaned up. And so like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But 4 days later, he goes on a bender. But eventually he does figure out what's going on, and he decides that he has to be the hero. And like a lot of these 80s movies, you have a guy who's like, either he's like a soldier or something, and he's going to get ready for battle, like in your Schwarzenegger films, or he's like a kind of like a loser, and then all of a sudden gets a battle, and then you have this scene where like they show up and they're just like armed to the teeth with the 80s headband, like Rambo, and a cigarette, and just looking like, okay, now I'm badass, now I'm ready for battle. And so it goes on here, and it's a pretty fun story. There's this totally kayfabe ad that's supposed to be a knockoff of the Demolition Man movie, but Jean-Claude Van Damme and Whoopi Goldberg. And this is done really well. I mean, it looks a lot exactly like the way one of those ads would have popped up in the comics, which is what I found really funny. It's just all of a sudden, it's like you're reading the story and you're like, oh, here's an ad. Oh, this is a totally kayfabe ad. So there's a lot of inventiveness, a lot of fun, a lot of thinking going on. You have like your metal hand, you have all these 80s tropes with these machines. There's like a James Cameron thing that you would see where all of a sudden like they have some kind of machine come out and the guy's running it. So it's a fun story. It's a complete story in itself, and at the end it has some fan art published, and it's really well made. The paper is really good quality. It's printed very well. The cardstock cover, it's sort of like a cardstock cover, but not super hard, but it's thicker. It's just really well printed, and this is something that I kind of gripe about with a lot of comics, especially from Big Two, and you're seeing it more from the major independents, where they're just starting to use some of the cheapest paper possible, especially Marvel and DC. Marvel uses like the thinnest paper known to man in order to print their trades. And they charge more than everybody else too. So it's nice, again, getting that feeling of quality. Like, hey, I got a pretty heavy book. And this is 36 pages of art and story, not including the covers. So it's a really fun book. If you like that 80s style of those kind of like action movies, or you're a fan of the early 90s stuff, this is your jam. Kevin's a pretty talented guy. Besides being a comic book artist, I believe he's a rapper as well. He's mainstay of the Buffalo comic scene, which I'm finding out is a pretty cool comic scene. I know Gutter Pop Comics is an excellent store out in Buffalo, but it seems like they're one of those hotbeds of comics. So you can reach out to Kevin Delgado. I will put his Instagram in the notes and the video, and see if he has any more copies. I think you'd like this. It's a nice package. Comes in a really nice box. You get a cool sticker, and again, it's just about quality. What are you getting for what you pay for? And this is one of the reasons why I'm a lot more selective in what I get monthly, because it's like, what am I getting for what I pay? And is what I'm getting a value? And if I don't think it's a value, I just don't get it. So anyway, enjoy the book, and thanks. Bye.